Hi folks, you're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. If there's hopefully it turns out to be President Trump has a second term from next year, then what can he do to make sure his policy agenda is put through? One of the huge frustrations, certainly as an onlooker, and I'm not an American citizen, by the way, as an onlooker from 2017 onwards, it was extremely frustrating to see, or irritating really, to see how much Trump's agenda was, his policy agenda was being frustrated by the public services and by even people in his own party, and even people working in the White House were doing it, frustrating the policy agenda, slow walking it, tipping off various other forces that would seek to obstruct it through lawfare legal actions and so on. And even to the case where you had judges, the employees of the government who were paid to be unbiased and impartial were in reality strident activists that were letting illegal aliens out of the back door of the courtroom because they were about to be arrested by immigration officials and so on. It was a stunning sort of inside look at just how many activists are in the federal government or government at all levels, but federal government, and even people sort of in the upper echelons of the public service, and how anti, because Trump was seen as being against globalization, how pro-globalist activists and thus anti-Trump activists being placed in all sorts of positions to frustrate and hamper, and to also to inform on if there was even a policy discussion paper internally, that would be leaked to the media, and activist journalists, again globalist controlled, would be already engaging in various undermining type action and spreading ridiculous propaganda and so on. So it's very difficult to watch that, saying, well, he's the elected president, that's his agenda. Now, Harry Truman once said that when he became president, he thought he was in charge and he could say, do this, do that, do so and so, and he realized that the reality was quite different, that the president can kind of set the tone, but the real on the ground practicality of getting things done, that's quite another matter. And if you've got public services effectively opposed to you or disagrees with it or doesn't like the policy, they'll find a way of hampering and frustrating it. Now, I can speak from personal experience, not at government level, but in the private sector. And I came into a company that was bleeding money, and one of the biggest investors in the company was sick of the CEO putting his buddies into key positions, and so he was under a lot of pressure to hire an outsider, and there had to be somebody that no one knew. That was kind of how it came out, and to some extent, all the parties within the board of directors and the investors and everything, they cancelled each other out, saying, no, that's your man, you can't have your man. So by sort of default agreement, they say, okay, well, we'll hire someone that none of us know. And so that ended up being me. And so I came in as a complete outsider, not a single friend internally, into a situation where everybody knew everybody, and the upper management were all somebody's buddy and just somebody's wife or husband or mistress or whatever. And so I came, not being fully appreciative of that, I came in and given the company was bleeding money, that was the first priority I had to deal with. And so I was making decisions based on stopping the bleeding of money. And given the wastage there and the cronyism, that really wasn't really that hard. Or it seemed obvious anyway. So I was saying, okay, do this, do that, do so and so, you do it, I was giving out the instructions, as it were, but nothing was happening. And there were various ways and devices that were being used to sort of undermine and frustrate the things I was trying to do. But it's unseen. You can't see it. No one's telling you directly. You're just wondering, why are things taking so long to get done? I said to do this last week. What have you done? Oh, I had to do this and I had that. Or this other priority came up, and so and so and so and so. And Billy Bob was going to do it, but he was off sick for a week, and and it sounds plausible enough. You go, okay, well, look, it is urgent to get this. Okay, can I ask you to really get onto it, and make a priority? Yeah, sure. I'll do priority. Yeah, sure. I'll do that. And, so off you go. So you leave that there because you don't want to come in and sort of shut the place up to the point where it all falls to pieces. You still want to keep that infrastructure there, but working for your agenda or what you're trying to achieve. And but nobody wanted this. Everybody realised, I think, that if the bleeding of money was to stop, then that meant they'd all have to give up something. They'd all have to compromise in some way. And they all had it pretty good, very generous expense accounts and very generous arrangements for leave and holidays. And the company had was giving out these bonuses on very spurious grounds, and the list just went on and on. And so I was trying to close off these things, but at every step I was being frustrated on it. At every step, no one perceived they would gain from it. That everybody had the view that if the whole company went broke and everybody lost their jobs and everybody was on the street, that was preferable. The whole thing coming crashing down, that was preferable to actually taking corrective action. So that I didn't quite understand that first off. I thought, why would anybody want the whole company to go bust? But they'd rather that than them have to give up anything personally. And I saw this, I think, or a similar type scenario in Trump's first administration. If everything came crashing down, that was better than addressing the illegal alien issue, or is better than addressing the LGBT propaganda issue. So none of the key planks of globalization, the mass migration, the racial, social, and LGBT, dividing society, so on, and having groups of society at war with each other. That's an essential part of the globalist project. So if you oppose that, then you oppose globalization, and so it was perceived if you lost the ability for mass migration of illegals, then that was it. Hitler was the next step. Hitler, that was it. There's nothing to it. It was Hitler. So, and then now you can say, well, that's an insane point of view, but people get stuck in these mindsets, and I end up having conversations with people saying, when it became apparent, why are you not doing this? Why should I? Why should I give that up? Why not? Why don't you get someone else to give up what they're getting? And so there were people doing the craziest things that they thought they were entitled to. There's a guy there. His wife had some some equivalent of Tupperware or something like that, except it was clothing, and she was hiring out a luxury, fully catered, by the way, with food and wine, a luxury suite in a luxury hotel to do her and hiring models to show off the clothes and this sort of thing, and selling them to the clothes, selling the clothes to well-to-do socialite sort of women in that part of town. And of course everybody loved it. It was beautifully catered for, an exotic hotel, and and the models and everything. It was a great day out. Didn't seem to be making a whole lot of money. I think people are coming along more for the food and wine than anything else. But she was billing that whole thing was being, she would get the receipts, and then she would give the receipt to the husband who worked at the company, and he would then put that in on his expense account. And so there'd be a couple of $1,000 or whatever it was for this thing. And, so I'd spotted this, and I was just randomly going, what's this? $2,000? What are you talking about? Because I assumed he'd entertained a customer or something like that. So I wanted to know, well, what was the customer he entertained? It was, I can't remember. Yeah, I don't remember. I'll look it up. I'll get back to you later. No. It's fucking $2,000 for one day. You can't remember the customer or what was talked about. Or, I mean, if it was a customer, if they placed an order with us for like, why are you spending this money? Oh, well, why do you have to bother me with it? I'm working hard. I'm working. Well, why do you have to bother me with this? Why don't look? I haven't got time for this. I don't have time. No, yes, you do. I'm your boss, and you do have time for it. And that sort of thing. And I found that every day. Also, there was there was other people there who would then go around to the girls. Guess what? Billy Bob's got a hit list, and he's gonna fire you all. So you better watch out for Billy Bob. He's out to get you. And so they would then be highly resistant to things I was trying to do. So anyway, that was really the. Do you know the president? He's trying to stop illegal aliens. Do you know the president? He's trying to stop LGBTQ propaganda being taught in schools. Oh, we've got to stop him. We've got to stop him. We can't allow him to do that. And so there's this idea they have to the right to stop you and prevent you getting things done, and prevent even to the point where they would go to a major customer and say, look, don't place your order this month, because if you place the order, that'll help this new incoming executive vice president. It'll make him look good. So can you delay your order, and then I'll give you another few % off if you delay it. These sort of deals were going on, and I was aghast at this, that they would go to these sort of lengths to try and prevent it. So I ended up having to. The more they resisted, the more I had to take severe action, then the greater the confrontation and so on. So I understand this and see this went on. So I saw an article in, I think it was Newsmax, and I think that in turn referenced an article from the Heritage Foundation, which suggested that through the Heritage Foundation, which is a think tank, as I understand it, that they're putting together effectively a key Trump team, so that the day or the minute that he walks into the Oval Office again, that this team is like in place, ready to go. And that was one of the things that Trump didn't have last time, or not to a sufficient extent. There were still many anti-Trump activists all through the White House and elsewhere, and he needs, I think, if his policy agenda is to be successful, he does need. So I agree with that. The idea of it and the concept of it is very much something I think needs to be done. And I hope very much that were that to happen, that I get a phone call. The President Trump will certainly get a very dedicated servant in me. He knows how to find where the bodies are buried and act very decisively to remove obstacles. But now we get the situation. Okay, so the Trump. Let's suppose we're thinking, just thought bubble out loud here. The Trump team comes in and it's loyal to the president's policies and believes in the policies such as restricting migration to only skilled people that speak English, for example. Nothing wrong with that at all, and a very, very desirable approach to take. Now, not everyone may agree with that. I for one do, but not everyone may agree with that. So the idea of having those policies and people who support those policies, but you've got a situation now where most of not all, but most of the legal establishment's been stacked in the lower courts and certainly in the district courts and the federal courts, been stacked with activists that are controlled by the globalist cabal. They'll get a phone call. You're going to hear a case tomorrow about this. This is how you will decide it. I mean, that's the level we're looking at. So how do you overcome that? How do you overcome a very hostile public service, an FBI, a CIA? How do you overcome these things and prevent them, stop them from stopping your policy agenda? Now, one thing about the Democrats, within moments of Joe Biden walking to the Oval Office, he was making various decrees and doing this and doing that. I mean, those guys really hit the ground quickly and started aggressively and swiftly enacting their policies. And I was surprised how little pushback they got. There was this army of lawfare litigants out there stopping Trump, but there wasn't even half. It wasn't even a quarter of that from the Republican side to stop what the Democrats were doing. They got very little pushback. and whereas the Democrat, the activist NGO Democrat Club, they were able to get things into court very quickly. The Republicans had to go on long waiting lists. So these are the Republican policy, or the Trump policy, if, assuming he's back in the White House. And if the Democrats, can't over the top cheat, Trump will be back in the White House. But they'll do everything they can to stop it, illegal or otherwise. But I think he's destined to be back in there, and I hope he does. I hope he is back in there. I think the only thing that'll save the Western world is a Donald Trump presidency, if it's effective. And this is time; not a minute or a second can be wasted if President Trump comes back to the Oval Office. So, how do you stop these things? How do you stop these activists who are brazenly prepared to abuse the law and abuse, the independence of the judiciary and all sorts of things? How do you stop that? And do you counterattack and say, well, if you want to ignore the law, so will we. Well, if you want to ignore the law, so will we. So we'll just do this and we'll just do that. And you want to be arbitrary, we'll be arbitrary. You want to break the law, we'll break the law. You want to tell lies, we'll tell lies. You want to fabricate evidence, we'll fabricate evidence. Now that would see that. I've got a real problem with that in the sense that the rule of law and due legal process are very, very important things. Now they're prepared to trash it and trample all over it, but should everyone, because you want the situation to be where the rule of law does apply, and where due legal process does apply, the rules of evidence and these sorts of things where they absolutely matter. And they're sacrosanct. And that situation's been lost. The globalists have ensured that the law's been bastardized and corrupted to suit their purposes. And that needs to be stopped and rolled back. So various policies with some delicacy and discretion need to be put in place that prevent that bad behavior, but stop the bad behavior to a point where the rule of law and due legal process are sacrosanct again. So there needs to be a whole lot of policies, I think, put in place to protect the rule of law and so on, and that needs to be and there's going to be a transition period where the struggle for power takes place, and it'll be intense, and it'll be a fight ideologically. It'll be a fight to the death. So provided it's an effective Trump administration, and I hope it is, and again, I'm available, then the first 18 months to 2 years is going to be that ideological fight to the death. But it's one that the Trump people must win. They must win. And then the second 2 years can be the consolidation of that and the return to normalcy. But I think there'll be a period of dislocation and hysteria as the globalists fight to the death over their loss of power and position. But the Trump administration can't say, we'll leave it to the courts. They have to be effective and be as activist as the globalist controlled Democrats are. And I think there are various ways to do that that will not harm the interests of the American people. Now, I could go through a list of them now, but that's for another time, perhaps. But coming back to this Newsmax and Heritage Foundation thing, I think it is a good idea, and I think that needs to be in place. And I think it needs to be people that are committed. So they need to arrive in the White House or if in the administration in general agreement to what they're going to do. There's a danger in that, because I have no doubt that security forces, the CIA and the FBI, will have infiltrated this so-called Trump administration, and they'll be informing and reporting on it and reporting back to their globalist masters and controllers. So there's how much can you actually pre-plan and be prepared for, done openly, because it's going to be leaked to the media, it's going to be used, they're going to be doing everything they can to pick out key people and arrest them or indict them. They're playing dirty, these people. They are playing dirty. And one of the things that the Trump administration is going to need to accept, that there's going to have to be work. Either you play dirty against them, or you have your workarounds. But I'm uncomfortable with the idea of doing workarounds that may themselves be unconstitutional. Sure, it's in the cause of stopping the bad guys, but once you go down a path of, well, we can break the law provided it's stopping the bad guys, because this is the attitude that the globalist Democrats are. Well, we're only stopping Nazis, so we're allowed to do it. We're only stopping Hitler, so that's okay if we break the law and fabricate evidence. So, I mean, do you do that in response? Because that sort of ends up trashing the very thing that you're trying to rescue, the Constitution, the rule of law, and so on. So I think there are other ways around this that won't trash the Constitution or the rule of law and due legal process, but there are extraordinary measures that will need to be taken because the globalists must be defeated. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.